Yo, what is going on YouTube? It is your boy GZTV. I'm being a little quiet. Sorry if the videos have been quiet recently. We are here with another video, and in this video, it's GZTV. I don't know if I said that already. We're here to talk about the 2003 American comedy film directed and co-written. Once again, we are talking about a Todd Phillips film. We have Old School. We're here with some more Will Ferrell, and now we're getting a bit of some Vince Vaughn flavor for the first time in a while on this channel. I don't know when the last time we watched a movie with Vince Vaughn. We might not have even watched a movie with Vince Vaughn really on this channel. It's a very well casted movie here, just another great time for Mr. Todd Phillips, who we actually just talked about with Joker. Foye Ado, I think. Owen Wilson, or Luke Wilson, not Owen Wilson. Owen's brother Luke Wilson is actually in this movie as well. We know him to do the comedy movie. We know Todd Phillips to do the comedy movies very similar to Judd Apatow. You know, this movie has that same sort of flavor. Obviously, he has made more of a name for himself in other types of films, but these were his glory days. The goofy comedy of the 2000s. And we get frat comedy, college comedy, which is actually somewhat new on the channel. We haven't really talked about a movie like this. There's not that many out there. The last time I saw a comedy movie in college was probably Road Trip, and I saw 22 Jump Street a while back as well. We didn't do a video on it. We may or may not dive into those movies at some point. You know, stay tuned. There's plenty of comedy movies down the line that we have to watch, so let's get into it. So getting into the premise, you'll understand the structure of the movie reviews if you're new around here, but the movie follows attorney Mitch, who is played by Luke Wilson, who after discovering his girlfriend, played by Juliette Lewis, has been participating in group sex and having all these weird kind of fetishes, he feels his world come undone. He moves into a new place, which happens to be near a college campus, and tries to get his life back together, you know, get back on the right foot, kind of start anew. Two of his best friends, Frank, played by Will Ferrell, and Beanie, played by Vince Vaughn, start hanging out at Mitch's house, eventually turning the place into a wild party pad, much to the ire of the college's dean, Gordon Cheese Pritchard, played by Jeremy Piven. So now it's kind of a battle between these like older men that are trying to be young again and this college dean. So they have that whole thing going on. They're turning this into almost like a frat house. Well, it does turn into a frat house eventually, and he kind of does this, like, obviously, you know, you see Mitch do this, he agrees to do this to put himself out there and have a little fun. Obviously, you know, they start pretty much an all-age fraternity because that's completely allowed, right, in college, of course. Anyways, they kind of label it as a social club. It's kind of a funny thing. They try to fight to keep this frat house afloat, this brotherhood afloat on campus, as many loopholes are found to try to take them down. Again, it's kind of a battle between Beanie, Frank, and Mitch, and the dean, Gordon Pritchard. I don't know why his nickname's fucking Cheese. I think that's kind of funny. They were like bullying him at the beginning of the movie, but will they succeed in keeping their brotherhood alive, or will the youthful days of the guys be over forever? This is something you will have to find out for yourself. Again, it's pretty cliche. You should kind of know it's happening, but there you have it. So starting with the good, I mean, like most comedies of the 2000s, this movie is funny. There's a lot of comedic elements to it. It's obviously supposed to be funny, but not all comedies are funny, and this movie is definitely one of them that is funny. And it may not be as funny as some of the other movies from this era that we have talked about on this channel, like obviously I'm not going to bring up names right now, but some of the other movies we've seen on this channel from this time period definitely they definitely contrast a lot. Definitely not a good comparison there. Will Ferrell really spearheading the comedic elements with this once again goofy, you get the Step Brothers, Talladega Nights-esque ignorance. It makes it for a funny movie, and those are kind of movies from that time that thrive there. And also, I think the concept itself, although not super revolutionary, is quite refreshing. You kind of get a new setting, you kind of get a new vibe and an aesthetic from other comedy films. It's not often you get commentaries on college things like fraternities and college parties, and I think that is a really entertaining part of this movie. Everything with the brotherhood, the pledges, the parties, the traditions, the frat house. I honestly like, and I'm gonna be honest here, I don't like fraternities. I don't like frat kids. I don't like anything that they stand for. I think it's fucking dumb to do that in a academic setting. I think is retarded. In a comedic light, I can get down with it. You know, they do all sorts of things with frats, and it's amazing. It especially helps, you know, that I am in college right now, and my college may not have the craziest Greek life presence. Like, I don't go to the biggest college in the world. It's still there, and I hear all sorts of things about it, so there you go. Vince Vaughn is also funny in a different way than Ferrell, in that his character is like brash, kind of dull, basic ass human being that just wants to party, and he's kind of like that. He is like the most fratty, douchey guy out of them, and that's what makes it funny, because they're kind of playing on that stereotype. It's hilarious. Luke Wilson isn't quite the funniest actor there is, but he serves his purpose as sort of like the chick magnet, the desperate one, the one that they're trying to get him laid and give him a good time. You know, he's going through a lot of shit, obviously. Again, he's not funny as a character, but the situation with him and his ex-partner with the group sex fetishes, that shit was hilarious. And to open the movie with that scene and, you know, him walking in on his wife, and yeah, let me just play a clip.
Hello. Yeah? I'm here for the gangbang.
And getting into the side characters, I mean, all of those are great too. And I truly believe that you can't have a great comedy film, especially from this time, without good side characters. A lot of movies, especially from this time period, have had great side characters. All of the frat pledge characters are great. You know, the 90-year-old man, you have this 90-year-old man in blue who has no business being in this frat, but he's fucking awesome. He's an amazing character. Dies. It's kind of like funny when he dies too. It's crazy. Like everything about him and what happens to him and his whole arc and his development is fucking hilarious. You get Weensy, this comically obese guy. You get this nerdy kid who questions why he's even in this frat himself. You get Mitch's co-workers who want to get in the frat, go into the frat. It all comes together, and these side characters are really well utilized. This movie really reminded me of movies like Road Trip and There's Something About Mary, where those same side characters appear later in the film and they serve a purpose and they kind of loop back around. I love when comedy movies do that, and this is one of the movies that takes advantage of that kind of plot technique. And also, just let me close off this section by saying the mid-credit scenes were pretty fucking awesome. You have like the professor, what's his name, was driving on the fucking bridge and he runs off the bridge and lands on the fucking dean. I think that was hilarious. And then you have Vince Vaughn's character being an absolute like brash head coach, just as you'd expect. You have the scene with Frank, you know, seeing this girl and like freaking the fuck out. I am so back. It was fucking awesome. So getting into the bad, I just want to say there's not really much bad to say about the movie, and anything I mention in this section is going to be very minor because this movie is great. I really like this movie. It's not the most amazing movie in the world, but for a comedy in its time, I think it's awesome. The one thing I will say is that the characters aren't really developed super well, and there's really no sense of an actual like well put together movie in terms of what you would expect out of character design. Not a lot of these characters have backstories. Not a lot of these characters, they're not developed. You kind of just go into it and you say, okay, Mitch, attorney, has a fallout with his wife, let's move on. You know, that's really all you get. And then you get these side characters like, what the fuck happened to Frank before this? What the fuck happened to Beansy before this? Was this guy in a frat house? I mean, you'd kind of assume he was because he seemed pretty comfortable with the Greek life before, you know. I didn't even pick up on the fact that Mitch was an attorney until later on in the film, which I don't know if that's dumb of me to say, but I'm just being honest here. And yes, I saw some comments on my Dune video. You guys were calling me ignorant and stupid for not understanding that movie, so if I don't understand this, sure, fucking come for my head again. I mean, you guys seem to like that video. Not. Anyway, with that being said, I'm not super bothered by this considering it is a comedy film and it's not supposed to be this work of art or this serious thing. They don't really have to put characters together. It is kind of what it is, but again, I had to put something in the bad, and I feel like this is a little more of a bad than what I'm about to say. So there you go. Getting into the okay, I mean, in terms of the mixed elements, I will say for as funny and awesome as the frat concept and the elements of that are in this movie, I don't believe we saw enough of the shenanigans. I don't believe we saw enough of the frat stuff in the movie. We needed more work interruptions. We needed more pledge initiation and crazy parties. And I feel like the reason we didn't get this is because of there's two reasons that could definitely contribute to this. One, the other storylines had too much screen time, and sure, those were funny and they served their purpose. You know, the dean going off to the side and trying to scheme and trying to bribe the student body president, and you know, you get to the girls and they're kind of doing their own thing. Could have possibly been the detriment for not putting enough emphasis on this whole frat storyline. And number two, really the one I think is the reason why we didn't get enough frat stuff. The movie could simply be too short to squeeze everything in. You know, coming in at under 90 minutes, this is one of the shorter movies I've ever watched on this channel. Sorry about the clicking noise I'm doing in the background with my drawstring here. You rarely do you see me complain about a movie being too short, which is ironic because we actually talked about Dune being too long and I complained about that. That's reasonable. But complaining about a short movie does feel strange. But here I think an extra 20 to 30 minutes would have been pretty beneficial in terms of making this movie more complete, giving it more time to kind of flesh out the storylines and have more opportunities for comedic moments. No doubt it is a funny ass movie. The runtime's the main catalyst for why we didn't really get enough in that regard, I think. It is review time. Let's pull up the tier list. I'm just going to say this right now. I think this movie is a perfect example of just a flat 7 out of 10. It gets the job done while also not doing too much. It's kind of just right in the middle. It doesn't do anything spectacular, but it is a good enough movie where you're like, hey, I will watch that again. Like, if it's turned on in the background or something, not even just the background, background, like I can zone in and watch this movie again. It's very simple. It's a very short watch. You know, usually I take breaks in between watching movies. Not really, but this one I didn't have to. It was very simple. It got to the point. It was awesome. Heck, if anything, like it doesn't do enough sometimes in some aspects of the story, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a good comedy that I wouldn't, again, mind checking out again. Great cast, fun storyline. It had a lot of potential. If it maybe touched on some of the half-baked kind of frat stuff and maybe made that a little more complete, you would probably see this in the 8s, but 7s are satisfactory, and that's truly how I feel about this movie. I truly believe it is a satisfactory experience. It does just what it needs to do as a 2000s comedy film. Shout out to Todd Phillips, again, another really good addition to the 2000s comedy films, which we have been covering on this channel so much recently, and that's a lot of the movies we are going to cover on comedies. I'm sure there's going to be more coming up. I think we're going to watch The Hangover coming up pretty soon. We're going to watch Malignant. That's a newer movie. That's like a horror movie from James Wan. So those are kind of some of the movies coming up. I do have to get a Penguin review at some time this week. But anyways, leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'm out. I am going to bed. It is very late. I am recording this at 2:30 in the morning. I just wanted to get this recorded so I can kind of start editing it tomorrow when I get up. I'm sleeping the fuck in, boys. I am very lazy over the break, but I'm still trying to make sure I get videos out for you guys. There you have it. Have a good rest of your night, day, whenever you're watching. I appreciate you guys interacting with my Dune video, by the way, even if it's negative. It's great, conversation. So there you go.